Amélie Lefebvre, the daughter of a prestigious French law enforcement family, had married a quiet, slender American man named Jake Anderson. For a year, her parents' disapproval had cast a long shadow over their lives, but after an unexpected crisis, everything changed. This is the remarkable story of how a father, a decorated colonel in the French gendarmerie with 30 years of service, and a mother, a former analyst for the DGSI, France's internal security agency, were forced to reconsider everything they believed. They had vehemently opposed their daughter's marriage for a year, judging her husband solely on his unassuming appearance. But when a series of burglaries plagued their neighborhood, they found themselves pleading for help from the very son-in-law they had once scorned. In a single night, Jake would reveal a level of skill and professionalism that no one could have anticipated. What could possibly compel a couple who judged a book by its cover to completely change their minds and offer a sincere apology? Let us follow this family's surprising journey of reconciliation. My name is Amélie Lefebvre, and I was a third-year criminology student at the prestigious Sorbonne University in Paris. I was 20 years old when I met the man who would change my life. First, let me tell you about my family. We have a long and proud tradition of service. My father was a colonel in the Gendarmerie Nationale, based near Lyon, with over 3 decades of experience. My mother was a former criminal analyst for the DGSI. Growing up in this environment was unique. Every morning began at 5 a.m. with a run alongside my father. On weekends, my mother taught me savate, the French kickboxing art, and I started firearms training in secondary school. Amélie, the world is a dangerous place, was the golden rule in our house. You must be able to protect yourself. By the time I graduated from lycée, I could easily lift 60 kilograms, and my marksmanship was on par with a rookie gendarme. At university, I had a certain reputation. I frequently outmatched the male students in physical contests and was the head of the savate club. My career path was set. I would join the DGSI or become an officer in the gendarmerie. Then one autumn afternoon in the library, I noticed a male student in the international relations section. He was about 5'10", 1.78 meters, with a lean build and a classic American face, reading with intense focus. A few days later, I discovered we were in the same seminar and were assigned to a group project. It was the first time we spoke, and I was immediately struck by him. "Hi, I'm Jake Anderson, an exchange student from the United States," he said, his voice calm and polite. Jake was 25. He had already earned his bachelor's degree and completed his military service in the US before coming to France for his master's. Working together, I saw different sides of Jake. He analyzed problems with meticulous detail, catching nuances others missed, and he always listened to everyone's input. His logical thinking during our presentation was astounding. He laid out his arguments systematically, with a quiet confidence that was incredibly persuasive. What impressed me most was how he treated me. Because of my strong personality and athletic build, most men were either intimidated or awkward around me. Jake, however, was completely natural. "That's a fascinating perspective, Amélie. I never would have thought of it that way," he'd say, making me feel genuinely heard. We grew closer, studying together in the library and grabbing coffee. His stories about the United States were captivating. He spoke of a nation of immense diversity and rapid innovation, with a culture that was complex and vibrant. He was also incredibly supportive of my dreams. "It would be so cool if you became a gendarmerie officer, Amélie. People who protect justice always deserve respect." One night, as I was leaving the library late, 2 drunk men started following me, making crude remarks. Despite my training, facing 2 unpredictable men was unsettling. Just then Jake appeared. "Amélie, are you okay?" he asked, his voice still calm but with an unshakable firmness. "What's it to you, little man?" Jake didn't flinch. He positioned himself between me and them. "Leave now, and don't bother her again," he said, his voice suddenly carrying an authority that was startling. The 2 men seemed to feel an invisible pressure and sullenly walked away. It was the first time I had seen that side of him. "Thank you," I said, my heart still racing a little. He just offered a small smile. "Of course, don't walk alone so late next time." That confident smile was utterly captivating. Our relationship blossomed after that. Jake was the perfect boyfriend. When I had a cold, he would show up with soup. When I was stressed with exams, he would sit with me quietly, his presence a silent encouragement. After his exchange program ended, he returned to the US, but we spoke every day, navigating the time difference. A year later, Jake returned to France to finish his master's, and we officially began dating. He was always thoughtful and considerate, never belittling my ambitions but instead helping me understand the deeper values of courage and justice. After I graduated, we decided to get married. Jake had secured an excellent job at a major corporation in New York City, but when I told my parents, they were vehemently opposed. "Absolutely not." My father's voice was like steel. "I cannot give my daughter to a man who looks so unassuming. If you were in real danger, could he protect you?" My mother agreed. "Amelie, you want to move to a place as far away as America? We have raised you so carefully. We can't let you go so far." I was heartbroken. My parents refused to even get to know Jake, judging him purely on his appearance. I tried to explain that he was a good person, that he had already protected me, but they wouldn't listen. "Love isn't enough to build a life on, my daughter. Be realistic," my father said. With 30 years in the field, I know that truly dangerous situations require physical strength. The months that followed were filled with tension. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, I made my decision. "Papa, Maman, I am going to America. I will marry Jake and live there." A terrible argument erupted that night. "If you walk out that door, don't ever come back," my father yelled. My mother was sobbing, but my mind was made up. I wanted to start a new life with the man I truly loved. Against the backdrop of my family's disapproval, I boarded a flight at Charles de Gaulle Airport. At JFK, Jake gripped my hand tightly. "I will make you happy in America," he promised. At that moment, I had no idea I had married such an extraordinary man, nor how astonished my parents would one day be. Life in New York was a whole new world. The apartment Jake had prepared for us in a modern building in Manhattan was clean and organized to a degree that was almost shocking, like a military barracks. Shoes were perfectly aligned by the door, the countertops were completely clear of clutter, and the towels in the bathroom were folded into perfect thirds. "Jake, are you always this tidy?" I asked, amazed. He just laughed. "It's pretty normal in the States, especially for guys who've been in the service." As our married life began, I noticed more of his incredible habits. He woke up at 5 a.m. every morning to clean the apartment and work out. 2 months later, I found a job at an international firm. Every evening, Jake patiently helped me navigate American slang and culture, always encouraging me. 3 months after our wedding, something unexpected happened. Jake's car was in the shop, so we took the subway home. On the crowded train, a woman suddenly screamed, accusing a man of secretly filming her. The man tried to bolt. In a flash, Jake moved. He weaved through the crowd and, in a split second, had the man completely neutralized. "Give me the phone," he commanded, his voice cold and decisive. The man struggled, but Jake seemed to press a nerve or joint that made him instantly compliant. The other passengers burst into applause. I just stood there, stunned. This was not the quiet academic Jake I knew. 2 weeks later, something even more astonishing occurred while we were walking through Times Square at night. A group of rowdy tourists began harassing a young woman. I was about to intervene when Jake stepped in front of them. "Excuse me, we'd like some privacy here," he said politely in English. "What's this skinny guy want?" one of them said, shoving Jake hard in the shoulder. In that instant, Jake's eyes changed. With a single fluid motion, he seized the man's wrist, applying a lock that brought him to his knees in pain. The others backed away. "I'll say it again. We want some privacy," he said, his voice now laced with a chilling menace. The group scrambled away in fear. "Jake, who are you?" I asked when we got home. He just smiled and said he learned a few things in the military. I started researching the different branches of the US Armed Forces. The following week, Jake suggested, "Want to go to a shooting range? You said you were a good shot. I'd love to learn from you." I happily agreed, confident that this was one area where I would definitely outshine him. At the range, I shot a very respectable score, but when it was Jake's turn, I couldn't believe my eyes. Every single one of his shots landed in the exact same spot, creating one single ragged hole in the center of the target. The range instructor was speechless. Incredible grouping. "What were you, a Navy SEAL or something?" That's when Jake quietly replied, "I was." The words hit me like a physical blow. A Navy SEAL? The most elite special operations force in the US military? Suddenly, it all made sense. The early mornings, the perfect neatness, the lightning fast reflexes in dangerous situations. That night, I read everything I could find about the Navy SEALs, and my respect and awe for my quiet husband grew immeasurably. He was a man with an extraordinary past. Nearly a year after our wedding, I received an unexpected call from my father. "Amelie, I need your help," he said, his voice heavy with fatigue and worry. He explained that their neighborhood had been hit by a string of burglaries. For the past few nights, a suspicious individual had been seen lurking around their house. "Amelie, please come home alone," my father insisted. When I told Jake, he didn't hesitate. "We're going together. This is a family matter, and I'm not letting you go into a potentially dangerous situation by yourself." And so, a year after I had left, we flew back to France together. My parents were waiting for us at the door of their home, looking exhausted. When my father saw Jake with me, his expression hardened. "I told you to come alone." "I'm sorry, Papa, but the situation sounded serious, so he came with me," I explained. The atmosphere inside was icy. My father recounted the situation. Jake listened intently, then asked with professional clarity, "Do you know his likely points of entry or any patterns to his activity?" My father was taken aback by the tactical nature of the question, but answered, "That night, around 10 p.m., Jake pulled me aside. 'We need to be careful tonight,' he whispered. 'I have a feeling someone is watching this house.' He said he would stay up and keep watch. Around 2 a.m., we heard a faint noise from the back garden. My heart pounded. Jake slipped out of the room, signaling for me to be silent. "Someone's at the back door," he mouthed. Just then, my father emerged from his room holding his service pistol. "What's going on, Amelie?" "Papa, Jake thinks there's an intruder at the back door," I whispered. My father, with his 30 years of experience, immediately went on alert. A moment later, we heard the distinct sound of metal scraping against the back door lock. "Get your mother to a safe place. We will handle this," Jake said with quiet command. He turned to my father. "You cover the front approach. I'll go around the back." "You can't go alone. It's too dangerous," my father protested. "It's all right. I'll just do a quick reconnaissance." Jake moved with the silence and speed of a predator, disappearing into the darkness. A few seconds passed, then we heard a brief scuffle, a short, muffled cry, and Jake's calm voice cutting through the night. He's secured. "You can call the gendarmerie." When we rushed outside, we found a man in dark clothing lying face down on the ground, completely immobilized by Jake's knee on his back. My parents stood frozen, their mouths agape in utter shock. How did you do that so quickly?" my father stammered. "I just used what I learnt in the service," Jake replied calmly. After the gendarmes arrived and took the man away, my father looked at Jake with a new, searching expression. Who are you really?" I answered for him. "He was a Navy SEAL, Papa." My father was stunned. My mother stared at Jake in disbelief. "A Navy SEAL?" "Yes," Jake explained humbly. "I served in a SEAL team, so I have some training for situations like this." After that night, the atmosphere in our family changed completely. My father, who knew the brutal realities of elite special forces, began asking Jake endless questions about his training. My mother started showing a genuine interest in our life in New York. The next morning, she prepared a magnificent breakfast. The meal was warm and relaxed. We told them all about our life in New York City, our jobs, my struggles and triumphs with English, and the amazing American food we enjoyed, from Texas barbecue to Maine lobster rolls. That afternoon, my father proudly took Jake to his gendarmerie station. He introduced him to his colleagues with a booming voice. "This is my son-in-law, a former US Navy SEAL. Last night he single-handedly captured the burglar who has been terrorizing our district." My father's colleagues were full of admiration. Hearing my father speak with such pride brought tears to my eyes. That evening, my father and Jake had a long private conversation. Afterwards, he came to me. "I am so sorry, Amelie," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I was a fool to judge that young man by his appearance. You have found a truly good man." When it was time for us to return to New York, my parents saw us off at the airport. "I know you can protect my daughter," my father said, gripping Jake's hand firmly. My mother pulled Jake into a hug and thanked him. On the flight home, I reflected on everything that had happened. I realized that true strength doesn't come from muscles or weapons, but from a courageous heart and a spirit of responsibility. My parents had finally accepted Jake, and we were truly a family. I knew a happy life was waiting for me in America, and that I was unbelievably lucky to have married such an amazing man.